Hello, and welcome to this on-demand training about strategies that are winning right now in PPC. This video is specifically made for real estate investors that are looking for motivated seller leads. And we're going to talk about all the stuff that's working in our campaigns right now in PPC. And a huge hint here, the key is data. First, a little disclaimer. This is for serious investors only. And what I mean by that is you should stop watching right now if you're not someone looking for motivated seller leads for wholesale or flip or like fix and flip or BRRRR or novation or whatever your strategy is. If you're not looking for that, don't watch the rest of this video. If you're not doing deals consistently as a real estate investor with direct to seller marketing, don't watch the rest of this video. This video is high level information. And if you're not at a place where you can absorb this information in your business, it's going to be a waste of time for you. For the right people who are really serious about scaling their PPC and creating a serious inbound lead flow of motivated sellers, this video could be a complete game changer. So who am I and why should you even listen to me? First, this is me. This is a picture of myself and my wife, Madeline. This is our daughter, Ella, who is currently 19 months old. Why should you trust me? My name is Brandon Bateman. You can Google my name. You can search it on YouTube. You can ask your friends about it. Whatever the case is, you'll find lots of good stuff, lots of stuff about real estate investing, PPC, and all kinds of different places. I'm the CEO of Bateman Collective. This is a company that's been working specifically in the real estate investment space for 5 years. And I've spent over $14 million in PPC in my current ad account. And if you don't believe me, here's a look within the ad account so you can see $14 million in spend within the past 5 years just in this account alone. So what does that produce? Well, over the past 12 months, I'm proud to say that together with our clients, we spent about $9 million on ads through Facebook ads and Google ads. That generated over 118 million impressions across the US, Canada, and Australia, over 72,000 leads, over 2,400 deals for over $50 million in revenue driven to our clients. And when I say $50 million, I'm not talking like those other people that say like, the collective value of the deals was $50 million because, it was 200 on this property, 500 on that other property. I mean, this is $50 million of margin that our clients were able to acquire through this kind of marketing. And also, I've worked with people you probably know. I'm going to put a few clips and videos here just from podcasts you might know, with people you might know, talking just a little bit about what we do. It'll be super short, just a couple of minutes, but you need to know that you can trust me and that this information is quality.
And my biggest frustration, and I shared this with Brandon, my biggest frustration is someone's like, hey, you should sign up for my service. Like, okay. And I'll start asking them questions, and it's silent on the other side. I was like, okay, I can't in good faith give you my money because I can't be better at pay-per-click marketing than you.
Yeah.
But Brandon was going into terms, things that were eye-opening and I wasn't familiar with, so I thought that was really impressive. So
I said all that to say that Brandon has a high level of trust.
Yes.
You haven't used him yet, but amongst two of us here, he has a high level of trust. Yep. His transparency and his results have been very, very good.
I look at just digital marketing in general. I think that has the biggest space for growth. Mm-hmm. I look at that was what we were most excited about. Direct mail, I mean, everyone knows me for direct mail. That's what I've always preached is direct mail. It's not dead. It's still not dead. Mm-hmm. But something happened even last year that I was like, man, there's something special here. And so Brandon just kept learning. I wish I could say I kept learning. I didn't. Well, and we just kept responding to the awesome learning he was doing.
Well, just so that everybody knows, I use Brandon Bateman's company. I don't know. Last year we did right around $500,000. So wow. The return on investment was fantastic.
So now that we have that out of the way, hopefully we can trust each other. Let's talk all about the stuff that really matters. So today is the agenda. I'm going to talk about three things. The first thing, the ugly truth about PPC. Second, how Google actually works. Hint, it's different from probably how you think it works. And then number three strategies your competition doesn't know about that are working today. And all of that is just based on how Google actually works, not how people think it works. And that means that the kind of strategies we need to use are different. So we'll talk all about all of those things. So first item here, the made up, but probably pretty true truth about PPC. So I made up these numbers, but ask around, they're pretty close. 10% of investors are winning with PPC. And what I mean by that is you've all heard it. Think of your friends that are doing well at PPC that won't shut up about it. Think of the people that you see online talking about PPC, talking about how great it is. You probably hear a lot of things. However, when I talk to people, what they usually tell me is, I hear all these things that people are saying about PPC, but why am I not succeeding? 90% of investors are not succeeding with PPC and they don't know why. This is what it could feel like sometimes. This is you, this is Google, this is your money. And it can be confusing. It can be discouraging when you spend a lot of money and you don't get the kind of return on investment that you need. So what is the problem with the 90%? I would say that they don't know what they don't know. And what I mean by that is they don't know exactly how Google works and how we can play by Google's rules today. So let's talk about how Google works. Google is a cycle. It is a learning machine. So going back to this, right? A lot of people think of Google like this. They think of Google like the Joker. Google is it's trying to create problems for you. It's trying to suck all the money out of you that it can, all those types of things. But really what Google is and how its algorithm works is primarily machine learning based. And if you know anything about machine learning, you understand that machine learning, a lot of people think it's like AI is this super powerful, super intelligent computer. That's not exactly true. What it is it's technology that's capable of learning. And with Google's technology, you sort of have a blank slate. That technology doesn't actually know anything until you feed it the information. So how does Google work? It's basically a cycle. It's the same way anybody works, right? You do something, you experience something, you learn based on what you experience, and then you continue to adapt your behavior over time. Google works exactly the same way. So we start with ad spend. Ad spend produces leads, right? That's step one. We produce leads with our ad spend. Leads feed the algorithm. So the algorithm learns what produces those leads. And then when the algorithm learns, we go straight into more ad spend so we can do it over and over and over again. And sometimes we can scale it, which means this whole thing happens faster and faster. So when people talk about how you succeed with PPC, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about step one. How do you get ad spend and turn it into leads? And that's the part that's the wrong mindset. Because people focus too much on that, and they focus not enough on how do we take that lead generation and turn it into more learning for the algorithm. And then how do we take those algorithm learnings and turn it into more spend and have that happen at scale? And that's basically what makes PPC extremely powerful in the long term. It's just like your typical iceberg analogy, right? Here you have at the top of the iceberg. This is all the stuff that people talk about in PPC that's important. And I'm not going to say this stuff's not important. This stuff is very important. But the thing is, your competitors also know that this stuff is important. The stuff below the water, most people don't know. And that's what gives you a competitive advantage. And all this stuff above the water, this is your ads, this is your bidding, your keywords, your landing page, your account structure. We could put a whole list of a whole bunch of other stuff. But the point is, that is the stuff that everybody talks about when optimizing PPC. Below the water, what we're talking about is how do you make Google your ally, not your enemy? And there's only two ways that you do this. The first one is you give it a higher volume of data. And the second one is you give it better quality data. Because if your targeting is all based on the data that you provide, the more data you can provide and the better quality that data can be, the better your targeting can be. The better Google can understand what a motivated seller is. Because you can give it a whole bunch of instances and say this person was motivated, this person wasn't motivated, etc. The more data that you can give it for that, the more powerful it's going to be. So let's talk about these three strategies. I want to dive right into it. Let's talk about strategy number one. And I want to preface this. This increased our lead quality across our clients by 27%. And it is a huge piece of why our lead quality is up 77% year over year right now for all of our clients. A lot of it has to do with this strategy. So this is what you've probably seen for a landing page before, right? This is a dummy landing page. Obviously, that's not a real phone number, etc. But this is pretty normal, right? You might have a logo, phone number, some headlines, a form for someone to fill out, etc. And this experience I'm going to tell you about, it happens on the landing page, not actually in the ad account, but how it happens really influences the ad account. It's a strategy called lead sculpting. So picture it like this, and I can't remember the exact quote. Some sculptor at some point basically said the statue was always there in the granite. You just had to remove all the excess stuff, and that's how you get to it, right? And that's more or less true with our leads, right? The deals are there. We just have to remove the junk in order to find the actual true good leads that can potentially turn into deals. That's basically what lead sculpting is, but it's all about getting that feedback to Google. So let's look at how this works, right? You might have this landing page where you collect a property address and a phone number. That's really normal, right? So we collect the address and phone number. But if we're lead sculpting, then we might ask additional questions, right? We might ask, for example, is your property listed on the market? If you're anything like most people I talk with, if the property is listed on the market, yes, that's a lead. Maybe it's going to be a creative deal. Who knows? The chances are it's probably just not going to work out, right? So is the property listed on the market? If so, not really a valuable lead. If it's not listed on the market, that increases the value of that lead drastically in our eyes, right? So we have conditional logic depending on how someone answers that question. So they could say, no, it is not listed on the market, in which case we report the lead to Google, or they could say yes, in which case we don't report the lead to Google. And the important thing to remember here is reporting is how you communicate what has value to you. What you measure improves, and that exists even with these digital marketing platforms. So let's talk about how this actually works. I could go here, right? And I could fill out whatever address I want to, whatever phone number I want to, and I could click get a cash offer. The way it works with most people, they would do their conversion tracking. Conversion tracking is basically where you give Google the feedback saying, good job, this is kind of what I want, give me more of this. Most people would have that happen right when I click this button, get a cash offer. However, that's not how it works with our page. And notice in this one, it starts to come up with a questionnaire. And this is just one example, right? You could do this a whole bunch of different ways, but this is a great example. Is your property already listed? If I say yes, what happens is I still go through the rest of this form, and it's going to ask me all kinds of other questions that I can also sculpt based on. But it wasn't until, but actually, even if I get through all this form, to me as a seller, the experience is the same, but this website didn't fire the code to tell Google that that was the lead. If I select the right answers to the questions, then it does tell Google that that's the lead. And what this does, it makes your metrics look bad, right? If you're looking in Google, you're going to see you have less conversions. You're going to see your conversion rate looks lower. But what it does is it increases your lead quality over time. And in our experience, it's been a 27% increase in lead quality, which really, really adds up to a lot of potential profits on the bottom line. So anyways, lead sculpting, that's the first strategy. Don't be like everybody else that just reports a lead when someone fills out a form. You can identify what is a good lead and what is a bad lead, and you can give instantaneous feedback to Google on what's good and what's bad. Because how is it supposed to know what a good lead is for you or a bad lead if you don't tell it that? All right, so I just went over the example with that. All right, strategy number 2. This is the best long-term strategy for optimizing lead quality. The good thing about lead sculpting is it's fast. This other strategy, though, can be much more extensive and has huge impact long-term. This is also why we've had a really big increase in quality of leads for our clients recently, because we really focus on this stuff. Because most agencies you find, honestly, they will mostly focus on leads because that's the easiest thing to do, because it's really, really hard to get any data on anything else. But optimizing for lead quality and for deals, ultimately, that's what's most important, right? So a lot of people would say, yes, I focus on deals. I care about deals more than the rest of it. But to actually optimize things towards them is difficult. So let's talk about what this is, right? So this goes back to that diagram I showed you before, right? You have ad spend that generates leads, lead generates algorithm learning, the algorithm learning generates more ad spend, and it goes in these circles over and over and over again. And this gets smarter and smarter. This strategy called offline conversions reporting is essentially the same thing as adding one more step in this whole process. And it goes in between your lead generation and the algorithm learning. And when you put this step here, what it does is it just strengthens the quality of information you're giving to the algorithm so it can do even better with its learning. So this is the funnel, right? We've all seen this before. You spend money on ads, and then you get impressions on your ads, and then you get clicks, and then those clicks turn into leads, and some of those leads are opportunities, and some of those opportunities are appointments, and some of those appointments close into contracts, and some of those contracts close into deals, and then those deals produce a certain amount of gross profit. This is our funnel, right? You could separate this into 2 sections, though. On the top here, you have online actions, right? All of this happens on the internet before it gets out of Google's window of view. All the stuff below this red line, this happens in your CRM. That means that Google doesn't know that happens, right? So Google knows what's up top here. Google doesn't know what's lower. However, if I were to ask you, what do you care about here? I bet you care a lot about the stuff below this red line, a lot more than you do the stuff above the red line. So let's talk about how this actually works. Basically, you should be tracking all of this within Google. Here's how we do it. For our clients, we're going to put all their leads in a Google Sheet. Here's an example of that. I'm going to blur out all the leads so I don't actually just share all the lead information. But here you can see a company that just recently started with us, right? And you can see that their leads are coming in here and then they're giving us feedback and they're marking these leads with different dispositions. In this case, this lead was retail. And then you can see we have, it looks like 4 contracts here in this set of leads that we're looking at. And they can select basically from a drop-down list what exactly was the status of the lead. This data from here syncs into a database. From that database, it connects it with all of our actual lead information, including ID numbers and things like that. And then we have an integration into Google. And basically what the end result looks like is you have real quality data within Google. Here's an example, right? If you've ever seen the dashboard in Google, this isn't from that same client. This is just an older screenshot I had saying this. But a lot of people know that you can pull up all these columns and stuff. But I dare you to find any real estate investor that has a column for contracts or a column for appointments or a column for opportunities within Google. People don't have this because they don't track this. And if you don't track this and give this information to Google, how can you expect Google to get any better at finding you those kinds of things? So tracking this information, pulling it closed loop into Google is incredibly important. And this is kind of what that looks like. So this is called offline conversions reporting because it's all the stuff that happens not online. It happens in your CRM. And if you care about the action, yet you're not going to track and report it, then you're not going to have success. It's the same thing that's true with so many other aspects of your business, right? If you have employees and you're measuring the wrong metrics, then you're going to get what you ask for. And Google works exactly like that. All right, strategy number 3 here. Let's talk about aggregate bidding. This is one that I'm super optimistic about. We talked about this iceberg thing, right? We talked about these are all the things on the top that everybody thinks you should care about. And then these things at the bottom are kind of your competitive advantage. So we talked a lot about number 2 here, better quality data, right? The instantaneous better quality data is going to be your lead sculpting. The more long-term better quality data is going to be your offline conversions reporting. But what do you do about higher volume of data? Because it's actually it's pretty well known that companies that spend the most on PPC, they tend to win, right? So how do you, and when I say companies that spend the most, there's companies that spend a lot of money on PPC. Some of our clients spend a ton of money on PPC. There's tons of people that we don't work with that do that as well. So the point is you can spend a ton of money on PPC, right? So how do you, with a budget of 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000, compete with somebody who has a budget of 200 or 300 or 400,000 a month? You have to somehow create a higher volume of data. So a lot of people think that Google prefers advertisers that spend more money because those advertisers spend more money, and Google will just kind of favor them because they're big clients of Google. And from all the evidence I can find, looking at all the different accounts that we have, researching online, looking at incentives, all that stuff, it doesn't appear that Google does that. But what does happen is there's this feedback loop that we talked about. Let me pull that up. I forgot how many slides I had here, right? So this is our feedback loop, right? And basically the way that it works is the more ad spend you have in this, the faster and stronger this whole thing goes. So companies that spend more money, what they really have is not favor with Google, but more data. And more data means more ability to communicate to Google what they want. So how do you beat that if you have a small budget? Turns out there's a really neat trick that completely makes the concept of you needing to spend a ton of money on PPC irrelevant. And the way that this works, by the way, don't tell my competition. I've never seen another agency in this industry do something like this. It's a relatively unknown feature of Google Ads that you can do this. But the way it works is that account that I showed you before, that's called a parent account. The way that a parent account works with Google is you can have child accounts, right? So these Google Ads accounts would be the child accounts. And then between these child accounts, there's certain things that you can do, certain settings you can set up, and certain ways that you can do what's called a portfolio level cross-account bid strategy that actually aggregates data across all of them and uses things that it learns over here to actually improve performance over here. A little bit of a background on bidding and how this works. And Google is an auction. Every time someone searches on Google, basically a whole bunch of computers all go in, they put a bid in, and then whoever has the highest bid. I'm way oversimplifying this. So if you know a lot about this, then you're going to call BS, and it's because it is oversimplified. But for the purpose of this conversation, basically a bunch of these computers put a bid in, and then whoever has the highest bid kind of has the highest likelihood of getting the click. And that's sort of how it works. So how you value that inventory really matters, because this is kind of how Google learns, right? It might know for each person tens of thousands of different data points. And it starts to learn, well, when people have these data points, then they tend to be more likely to actually fill out the form and convert. And then it starts to bid accordingly. So it's going to put a bid in higher if someone's really likely to convert. It's going to put a bid in lower if someone's less likely. And bidding is really one of the biggest levers in Google, right? A lot of people think it's like, for example, having the right keywords. But if you're bidding right, then it doesn't even matter what your keywords are, right? Because if you have lower value keywords, you'll bid according to their value, because every keyword is worth something, right? It's just about if it's worth $1 million to your business, you got to bid $200,000 for that click. And if it's worth a penny, you got to bid a fifth of a penny, right? If you want that 5x return on investment. So bidding is super powerful. And this is where Google learns all kinds of different things, like based on what someone typed into Google, how likely are they to be a deal? And it learns, based on the time of day and based on the precise location, based on websites that the person likes to visit, and potentially their credit card history and what they like to purchase, and all of that different online behavior that kind of comes together to build a profile. All that data becomes more powerful as you share it across. So let's look in a campaign. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean here. This is a pretty new client of ours. They've been with us for a month. They've spent $34,000. So if you look at this you can see all time in the account, we have spent a total of $34,000 roughly. There's a way for me to analyze in the bid strategy here. And the way that this works is I'm actually seeing kind of how this bid strategy is learning. And here's some examples. So you can see here exactly with Google's own documentation. It says they're basically using these and other signals to automatically optimize campaign performance for those that are more or less likely to convert. So this gives you a little bit of a window into how Google's algorithm works. But the reality is this is like the way that their machine learning works. There are like literally thousands and thousands of these. They're just giving us a little sample and just saying like, hey, this is kind of how it works, right? You could see like We Buy Ugly Houses and is working well on mobile phones, right? Or Houston is working really well in the weekdays from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Or Indiana actually is good in the weekdays, but only from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And Georgia's not great right now. And the Cash for Homes query is good. Open Doors good, which that one actually is this is a little bit of a false signal. We could talk about that later. Weekends from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's specific lists that we're uploading to Google that are performing well. So all this stuff kind of goes into the smart bidding, right? So this account has spent $34,000. Yet if you look here, this is Google basically telling me it's learning all this stuff from $4.8 million worth of ad spend. So how's that possible? Well, it's because this particular bid strategy is active in 409 campaigns in 224 accounts. So this is the power of cross-account bidding. Now we've learned from 21,000 conversions and $4.8 million in spend instead of $34,000 in spend and however many conversions were there. This is so powerful. What this does is this decreases your ramp-up time to get to success. It makes it as if you are a big player in terms of your spend, in terms of your data collection. And no matter how big you are, this always has value, because you could have spent $1 million on PPC, and which by the way, this particular client that we work with, they did spend $1 million in PPC last year. And we started a brand new fresh account and were able to outperform their other account that already had $1 million in spend just that year and multiple millions of dollars over several years. We were able to outperform it within a month of ramp up time, largely due to this particular strategy and this aggregation of data. So this is super powerful stuff. Don't sleep on this. So you might be wondering, what do we know about your specific market that you do business in? What budget do you need in your market? What locations make sense to target? All these good strategic questions. And you probably want to know, what do we charge? What does our partnership look like? And all that kind of stuff. If you're wondering those things, this is my call to action for you. Schedule a discovery call. The way the discovery call works is you should see somewhere on this page a way to get to a calendar where you can see different times that you can sign up for a call with someone on my team. And in that call, that person's going to ask you a lot of information about your business, what your KPIs look like, what you're looking to accomplish, your goals, all that kind of stuff. And then based on that, we can start to craft a digital marketing strategy. The person who you talk to has crafted these strategies for a minimum of 100 investors, guaranteed. So this is a super powerful call, and honestly something that we should probably charge money for. I just had a conversation with two of the people that went through this last week, and they said, I cannot believe you don't charge money for that. You should charge at least $500 for that discovery call. So anyways, this is super valuable. Caveat, if you're not going to show up, don't schedule it. I'm serious about this. Schedule the discovery call, show up, don't waste our time. If you're there and ready to receive the value, we will be there to add the value. If you're already running ads, what I just gave you here is generic, right? I just said, this is the stuff that's working really well for us in this real estate investment industry. But if you want to know the top 3 strategies to improve your account, that's going to depend on where you are. So another thing that we do that is absolutely ridiculous that it's free, but we'll do it for you, is we do a free audit of your account. And the way that that works is we will go through all of your data. We'll ask you about your KPIs. We'll understand that. And then we will make you a video kind of like this, but personalized to you that tells you, here's the things you should change to get a better return on investment. So the way you start is you schedule a discovery call just like you would as if you weren't running ads. And then on that call, say that you want that audit. We'll go through your KPIs and situation together, and then we'll schedule another call. And in between those calls, we will do this audit, and it'll add some huge value for you. So if you're not convinced already, I'm just going to literally put a bunch of cool stuff in here in the next few slides, and we'll just talk about things, more reasons that you should believe us, more reasons that you should potentially work with us. This is a quote from Steve Train. If you heard of Steve Train of Real Estate Disruptors, he says, people ask me all the time who I recommend for PPC, and I always say Bateman Collective. We've worked together for 2 years now. That's absolutely true. There's Brent Daniels, who you may have heard of, Mr. TTP, the current owner of Wholesaling Inc. He's helped tons of students be successful. And not a lot of people know that digital marketing for years has been a large part of his strategy for his marketing. He said, I use Brandon Bateman's company. Last year, we did right around $500,000. So the return on investment was fantastic. Robert Wensley, if you know anything about him, he's a PPC expert. He's worked with a lot of the largest investors in the country with InvestorLift. He says, Brandon is the first person ever from outside InvestorLift to present here. This is specifically at a call to all of the clients in InvestorLift. He says, because a lot of people have been so impressed with the work and results. You know me, I'm so skeptical of PPC managers. I got to say, Brandon, you convinced even me. Some other people you might know. You might know Tiffany and Josh High that have awesome business and operations training. You might know the Collective Genius, a mastermind that has a ton of the largest investors in the country, or Investor Fuel, a really similar model. You might know Forrest Blackburn, who's known for scaling PPC for Tariq El Moussa and growing his company to over $1 million in revenue each month just within 5 months of starting with him. You might know Ricardo Rosales. You might know Corey Geary, who teaches PPC in the real estate investment industry. All of these people think highly of us, or are our clients, or will send us clients, trust us, all of those different things. Our clients like us too. If you haven't seen, you've probably seen from a few different companies these videos where they stick a camera in someone's face and say good, and ask them to say good things about us. I actually recorded just some calls that I was already having with some of our clients, where they were just organically talking to me and just letting me know about their results and what has been happening. And I'd love to share with you a few of those videos.
Signing up with y'all has been one of the best decisions I've made, because I've always been marketing obsessed. And it's I think about it and just the leads come in. It's pretty nice. And they consistently do.
Yeah, Brandon, just to give you a heads up, according to our KPIs, your marketing channel is our best marketing channel in both markets. It's a pretty significant difference, especially here in New Hampshire.
Our three of them were flips that are going to probably generate $175K. And then one's an owner finance that will be a 6-figure plus. So you're talking $275 for 3 months worth of spend. I mean, I don't even know what that, we've probably spent 25. So we're 12xing.
So if you haven't already, I highly recommend you schedule a discovery call. Like I said, there should be a link somewhere on this page where you can access a calendar, go on that calendar, book a time, commit if you're going to book the call to showing up. That is so, so important. Please don't waste our time. If you show up, we'll provide serious value, and I hope we'll have a great long-term partnership. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. You're absolutely awesome, and I hope I'll see you soon.